I can't hear you. Can you hear me now? I can't hear you.
Hey guys, Captain Dylan Hubbard here at Hubbard's Marina, and I am ready for a live stream show. How about you guys? Are you ready for the show? You guys excited? Because tonight we have a special episode lined up for you guys. We got a very special guest we're going to be rolling out here very soon. We've got Captain Jim Green from Destin joining us, American Spirit Party Boat Fishing up there in Destin. He's going to join us and talk a little bit about the less awesome area to fish in Florida, kind of second best area. If you had to pick another area in Florida, I mean, Destin might be up there in like maybe the top 10-ish. No, I'm just kidding. Destin's a great place to fish. Captain Jim's an awesome guy, and he's going to join us and tell us a little bit about his fishery, and we're going to talk a little bit about federal fisheries management, kind of some of the stuff going on right now, and just pick his brain a little bit here very soon. But first, As always, we're going to start off the show by talking about what's going on now, what's coming up, and show you guys what we're catching and talk a little bit about the weather. But we're going to kind of rush through that beginning part of the show so we can get to Captain Jim and chat with him a little bit longer tonight. So hopefully you're ready for a good show and a great time. First things first, don't forget to comment and let us know where you're watching from. Want to make sure you comment at least one time on the Hubbard's Marina Facebook stream. That's going to make you eligible to win some free stuff and also going to make it eligible for us to know where you're watching from. So definitely comment, let us know where you're watching from. Get entered for a chance to win some free fishing trips with us tonight. Because remember, we give away $1,500 in free stuff every Sunday night. All you have to do is comment once on the Hubbard's Marina Facebook stream in order to be eligible to win. Then you have to watch the show live, and if we pick you as one of the lucky winners, you got 5 minutes or less to text us at the phone number at the bottom of the screen your home address to claim that free trip. Also, guys, want to make sure we give a shout out to our friends over there at Gator Jim's Tackle, 3301 Pinellas Point Drive South in St. Pete. If you haven't stopped by and seen our friends at Gator Jim's Tackle in South St. Petersburg, you're missing out. Make sure you stop on by. Tell them Hubbard's Marina sent you. You'll get a free gift for stopping by and saying hello. Also, keep in mind, want to make sure we give a shout out to those sending stars. We had a lot of stars senders to kick our show off tonight. Remember, that's a Facebook way of kind of showing support and helping fuel the show. So I want to give a big shout out to Stephen Batchelor, Richard Blazak, Keith White, Richard Harcourt, Jim Evans, and Rick Rogers with a big 500, Todd Stutzman, Terry Feather, Derek Gossier with a big 530, Anthony Barnes, and Jasmine Marie. Appreciate all those stars, guys. And then, of course, a special shout out and thank you to all of those in our supporters club who really help to fuel the show and make all this possible. So big shout out to our supporters, all of you who are sending stars tonight and who have sent stars in the past. And, of course, our friends over at Gator Jim's Tackle. With that, let's roll right into the photos and show you guys what we are seeing out there on the water. So as far as photos are concerned, inshore, we're seeing some nice little photos, or inshore, we're seeing some nice sharks. The shark fishing is actually going pretty well right now. I don't have, the stream deck is not working whatsoever for me. But let's go back to full screen here. Oh, actually, it worked out that way. All right, so there it goes. No, still. There it is. All right, now it's working. Sorry. So we are seeing a lot of sharks in the inshore waters. We're also seeing a lot of mangrove snapper. The mangrove snapper fishing has been really good inshore right now. Docks, piers, bridges, jetties. Redfish action, super pumped up inshore right now. Seeing a lot of redfish. Early morning is your friend getting out there before the heat of the sun. Dead baits during the heat of the sun. Cut pinfish, cut ladyfish, cut mullet, all good options. Up underneath the trees, the shade line of the mangrove shorelines. During early morning, you can get away with some of those soft plastics, maybe even a surface lure. But as that day gets hotter, they either tuck up underneath the mangroves or move out there into deeper water. We're seeing a pretty good bite on the redfish. Starting to see some schools around, not a ton of them though. A lot of activity on the snook, especially out towards the passes and on our beautiful beaches. Today, the snook were loaded on the Johns Pass jetty. I walked out there for a minute, and there was a ton of snook out there cruising the jetty. And here's an example of the snook stacked up on the dock in the morning, just loaded in Johns Pass. We're coming up to that new moon this week, midweek. New moon means no moonlight. Going to really stack up those baits and those predatory fish around dock lights, bridge lights, all those artificial light sources. Going to be real good options this week with the new moon coming up. So definitely want to make sure you capitalize on that nighttime bite or that early morning bite, because early morning before the sun starts getting up, before the heat of the day, that's when those fish are going to be a little bit more active out there on the flats and shallower waters. So real good opportunity out there in a little bit shallower water earlier in the morning before that water starts getting too hot. During the heat of the day, you want to fish those edges, fish the passes, fish the docks, the mangrove shorelines, those areas where those fish can get a little reprieve from the heat. Now, working our way near shore and offshore, we'll show you guys what we're catching out there a little bit deeper. And we're definitely seeing a handful of these nice amberjacks, not a ton of them, but we're getting some nice amberjacks. We've had some in the 50, 60, 70-pound range. Definitely saw some good ones on a 39-hour trip 2 trips ago. It's kind of a little bit hit and miss. We have a few spots that have them, a few spots that don't. Not huge numbers, but we are seeing some of them. This trip, they're going back after them in a real good area, so hopefully we'll get another big push of jacks on this trip. But we don't have a lot of fishermen fishing for them. This trip, we only had, I think, 28 people on the boat. Only 4 people were fishing for amberjack, and they caught one and we're done, you know. So we don't have a lot of people fishing for the jacks. A lot of the folks were more concentrated and focused on catching the big vermilions, porgies, almacos, red snapper, mangrove snapper. We're seeing a lot of yellowtails and muttons. We got a lot of the throwback gag grouper going on right now. Excited for September 1st. Using a lot of descending devices and venting tools to get all those fish back down. Some big scamp grouper coming up along with the red and the gags that we're tossing back. We're getting some nice hogfish. Some real big hogfish out there in deeper water, near shore doing well. Some big mangrove snapper. Got a 7-pound mutton on the 12-hour night snapper trip, along with some big yellowtails lately. Today's 5-hour half day caught a 12-inch yellowtail in 38 foot of water. Absolutely crazy. So we're seeing more and more yellowtail, even shallower, and some pretty good consistency on the mutton. A handful of nice scamps, boat limits of triggerfish. The triggerfish bite has been just absolutely insane. So lots of triggerfish, some big studly yellowtail snappers, and plenty of heads and tails to go in with those red snapper, amberjack, and of course, a few nice big mangrove snapper too. So the fishing is going really well for us near shore and offshore, and of course inshore you still have a great chance for them too. So good time to get out there and capitalize. We've got super light loads going on right now. The half day trip today had 38 people on it. The 10-hour all day had 25 people on it, and we had only 24 go out on the 39-hour trip right now. We have a couple 12-hour extreme trips left with super light loads on them as well, so some good opportunities to get out there and capitalize on light loads and stellar fishing. So we're going to start off the show by giving away a free trip here in just a second, but before we do that, we're going to talk about the weather quickly, give away a free trip, then we're going to get to our buddy Captain Jim Green. So without further ado, let's see what the weather is doing. We're going to pop over there to our Hubbard's Marina website page. Right on our main website page, click Fishing Trips, click Weather Links. Our Weather Links page is going to show you exactly where we look to find what the weather's doing. We'll start inshore and look at the wind finder links for the inshore forecast. You can see hasn't changed from this morning's live video. Looks like a real good week of weather, nice calm conditions, moderate wind, moderate seas. But it looks like the second half of the weekend and early next week, we get a little bit of a high pressure settling in. Going to create a little bit more of a stiff east wind pattern. We're going to have a little bit of rain before it as well. So second half of this work week is going to get a little breezy, or a little rainy, not breezy. So it looks like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, our rain chances are going to go up. Then we're going to get that high pressure, stiff east breeze over the late weekend, early work week to come. So best fishing definitely going to be early to mid to maybe even early late work week. So it's basically today through Thursday is what I would recommend fishing weather wise at least. Offshore report gonna mirror what we're seeing inshore as well. I would assume, yep, pretty much rain chances are highest there towards the end of the work week. Wind picks up Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So basically a week from today, we have a chance for that wind to pick up. But during the work week, pretty moderate winds, just a little bit more of a rain chance Thursday and Friday. So best fishing, again, first half of the work week. So get out there, capitalize. Just remember, it is oppressively hot right now. So you want to make sure you're staying hydrated. The biggest thing weather-wise is it's hot. So drink lots of water prior to, during your trip. Make sure you're prepared for that heat. All right, so with that, we're going to give away our first free trip of the night. Remember, we got a 5-hour half day for 2, a 10-hour all day for 2, and a 39-hour trip for 1 to give away tonight, plus our Hubbard's Marina swag pack too. So lots of stuff to give away. Let's start it off with, let's do our 10-hour all day trip first. 10-hour all day trip for 2 lucky winners, or 1 lucky winner to bring 2 lucky guests. So let's see. 10-hour all day for 2 guests. Lucky winner is Jennifer Colarusso. Congratulations, Jennifer, on that big win there on the 10-hour all day trip for 2 guests from upstate New York. So out of state. Appreciate you for tuning in and joining us on our live stream show, Jennifer. Remember, you got 5 minutes or less to text us your full home address to claim that free trip. Want to give a shout out to some of those sending stars while we were doing the photos and stuff. Jasmine Marie, we had Richard Harcourt, Scott Flynn, appreciate you guys. Richard Bedwell with the big 500 stars. Jeff Reedy with 1,200 stars. Lance Hall with 500 stars. And then, of course, Christina Hall with the big win, 3,000 stars. I appreciate you, Christina. Appreciate all of you sending stars, and appreciate all the support as well. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the weather and the picture updates. Now it's time to get to our friend Captain Jim Green and talk to him a little bit about fishing up in the Great White North, as we like to call it, or Destin, Florida. What's going on, Jim?
Not too much. How you doing, Dylan?
I am doing well, man. I'm a little nervous. I saw the text message come through on what the temperature is currently in Austin, Texas, and that is concerning.
Yes.
Did I see
yes,
104?
Yeah, well, I think Wednesday is 107 is their high.
I'm glad I got.
That's what I saw this morning on there.
I'm glad I got trip insurance on my airfare because I feel like I'm gonna stay here.
Yeah,
That's really hot.
I'm glad I got a hotel room where the meeting's at because I have a feeling I won't be venturing out too far.
That is crazy hot. And I was just talking before the show starts. I like humidity. I mean, people always complain about the Florida humidity, but 107 degrees of dry heat. I feel like my nose would just catch fire and bleed uncontrollably.
Yeah, that's going to be like standing in front of a hairdryer is what it's going to feel like.
Yeah, very interesting to say the least. Captain Jim Green, the president. Are you still the president of the DCBA?
I'm the president of the DCBA and the Charter Fishermen's Association.
Okay. Still. I thought someone had taken over for you at the DCBA, but I was not sure. So you're still the president of the DCBA, is the Destin Charter Boat Association. And you guys have a lot of members up there, right? 180?
Not quite that many. We have over 100 members, and we represent 90 federally permitted boats.
A lot of people up there in Destin Harbor running charters, and represented by Captain Jim Green as the president. And then the president of the Charter Fishermen's Association is the board that Jim strong-armed me into joining a few years back. And we both serve on that board together. He's the president of the Charter Fishermen's Association, which is a Gulf-wide group of federally permitted charter boats and party boats. So excited to have you on the show tonight. And tell us a little bit about yourself, man. A little bit about Captain Jim Green.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it, Dylan. Thanks for having me on here. I run the largest head boat out of Destin, the American Spirit. I'm a third-generation fisherman. I'm 42 years old. I got the fourth-generation fisherman working on my deck. My 16-year-old son is in his second summer working on the deck with me. I started out on charter boats. I moved to head boats because it was a lot more fun.
Amen.
A lot more people. I took a little break from fishing full time from the time I was 20 till I was 23. In the summer, I pulled parasail.
Nice.
There's a lot more girls involved with that than guys wanting to talk about fishing, but that was unsustainable. So I've been fishing. I fished every year. Made it, especially in the winter times too, commercial fishing when I was younger. So this is my 32nd year on the water, making a living on the water. And I'm just blessed to live in the world's luckiest fishing village and the number one place to live in Florida.
Here
Wasn't
we
going to
go.
go there, but you started out on it.
I figured it was coming at some point. So Jim and I have this rat-a-tat about Destin versus Tampa Bay, and we can all agree in the comments that Tampa Bay is definitely the better spot to fish and the better part of Florida, but no big deal there. So also, besides fishing, Jim is a avid hunter. Nowadays, not commercial fishing as much in the wintertime as much as you are just disappearing into the deer woods. I can never get a hold of him come November. He just disappears off the planet.
Well, yeah. I mean, we're blessed enough to have a viable fishery enough to make a living off of it, and a great client base.
Uh-huh.
No, and playing into what we were talking about, Dylan, I will admit that Johns Pass and the greater Tampa area is one of my favorite other places to be in Florida. It's where I caught my first snook, was off Pinellas Point.
Yep.
And I really enjoy being down in your area,
and
as well, even though we give each other a hard time.
And you almost moved here. You almost were working right here. Right
there at Johns Pass.
Yeah.
My wife works for AJ's, and we're Scully's. Is it still Scully's?
Bubba Gump's, where Bubba Gump's is.
Bubba Gump's. Okay, well, it was Scully's at the time, I believe, is what it was called. But we were looking at putting an AJ's down there, so we actually, our paths crossed long before we even knew it.
Yeah.
So.
Too funny. And Destin's different from our fishery in the fact that so in Tampa Bay where we fish, you guys know we can go out and do a 5-hour half day. We're 9-12 miles out. We're fishing 35, 40, 45 foot of water. In Destin, you go a mile out and you're in 50 foot. It's a little different.
Yeah. Well, yeah, a mile from the beach. Like our open water buoy, our sea buoy, is in 52 foot of water. And it's basically a good rule of thumb. Every 10 miles out of Destin you go, it's 100 foot deep.
Wow. You
go 10 miles in Destin, and 11 miles you're in what we call the 18s, which is the 18 fathom gullies, which is, over 100 feet. Wow. So we're blessed. I think that's why everybody says that's why Destin's called the world's luckiest fishing village, just because of how quickly you can get in deep water. Yeah. That 10 miles every 100 foot goes for a solid 50 miles, 60. Once you get out to 60 miles, you're getting into the DeSoto Canyon and that area, and it gets a lot deeper. But
so 60 miles, you can get into the DeSoto Canyon and start getting a bluefin tuna, yellowfin tuna, blue marlin, billfish, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, and our county actually deployed the first FAD system out there at the mouth of the canyon, which I believe is 48 miles.
Yeah,
so we have an actual.
That's one thing. That's one thing that Destin has over our area is your county is very invested in your charter fleet, and that's, I think, speaks to the fact that your ex-president of the Destin Charter Boat Association was the mayor, and the mayor of Destin really, really harped on the county and built that relationship. And you guys have really done a great job up there. Of your charter fleet is a focus of your CVB or your Convention and Visitors Bureau, and a lot of tourism dollars and tourist development dollars goes towards really making that fishery robust. And it's cool that the county invested in those FADs. I mean, that was a really expensive project. It was like what, $2 million, right?
It was, and it was very long. It was a very long process to get approved to putting them out there too.
Yeah.
We also had a past charter boat captain, Kelly Wines. He was on the city council for a while, and then he became a county commissioner, which helped fuel that fire. And Gary is the second fisherman to be a mayor in Destin since '84. So, we are blessed, and there's a big difference between the Tampa area and the Destin area is that basically we have the tourist business and fishing and the Air Force.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of property up in Okaloosa County is covered by Air Force Base. So, we don't have the population density that the Tampa area has. Therefore, we are one of the sole industries besides DOD,
Yeah.
but besides the Department of Defense. So it's it's very, there's golf courses and strip malls everywhere all over this country, but there's only one Sugar White Beach and fishing in Destin. So that's why we
Yeah.
get a lot of attention, and we definitely leverage that to our favor.
Yeah, you guys do have some beautiful beaches up there. I will admit, my wife likes to vacation in not Destin, but just east of Destin.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it is.
Those are the places that grew out of Destin.
Yeah. All right.
I know where you're talking about. We're lucky. Our sand is 80% quartz from the Appalachian Mountains that comes out of Apalachicola. So it's if you've never seen it before, it's really cool stuff. You walk on and it squeaks and it doesn't get hot, except right on the very top. If you dig your toes in, it's cold. It's
weird.
Definitely
it's weird sand because like our sand, I think again, I think Tampa Bay is the best. We Clearwater Beach, St. Pete Beach, Fort DeSoto's, North Beach. I think we have some really, really beautiful sand, and it's just finer sand. And I think ours is more white, but it's like powdery. The sand up there is just like the bigger granules, and it's interesting how it just kind of sloughs off you. It's different. It's just a different place. It's cool. It's a cool place to visit. And the fishing's cool because it's different. You get out deeper, quicker, and you get some really good opportunities for some big pelagics up there. I mean, you're catching wahoo trolling in on like 6-hour trips, right?
Yeah, my biggest wahoo I've caught on the Spirit to date, I caught this past June, and I was 3.5 miles from the sea buoy. And the scale was broken where we were at, but we estimated it to be over 90 pounds. It was 6.5 foot long, and I think it was 17 inches diameter.
Wow.
It was biggest wahoo I've caught as a captain.
That's awesome.
And we caught it 3.5 miles from our sea buoy.
That's cool. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting place. But the cool part about Tampa Bay versus Destin, in my opinion, and the reason why I always argue with Jim, is just because we get deeper slower, we have more area for like things like hogfish, which they don't have, and we have lane snapper, and we have a lot more biodiversity. But it is cool that they have access to deeper water quicker, and your fishery is pretty robust up there.
Yeah, I mean, we do. We have a lot of the same fish. We don't have quite as many. We don't have the gruts, and we don't have the hogfish.
Gray snapper.
And I wish. If I could wish.
I want to hear you say it. Gray snapper.
What's that? The gray snapper?
Yeah.
Well, I caught 4 of those today, and they averaged 6 pounds. So
Gray snapper with an A is a mangrove snapper is a black snapper up there, right? You guys
call it a black snapper.
Yeah, so they call a mangrove snapper a black snapper in Destin. And what do you call a cobia up there?
We call it cobia.
Oh, that's further.
Some people call it a ling. It's a cobia.
All right, so you call it a cobia.
Well, I'm not wearing. It's a cobia.
But I thought they call them ling in Destin.
Yeah, some people do.
Okay.
Some people do. They read a lot of magazines, but going back to the gray snapper, our gray snappers, and we primarily catch it in about 100 foot to 130 foot is about the range, and they're a lot deeper than probably where you catch them at.
Yeah.
They'll probably catch them in a lot shallower water, so they're exposed to more light. Up here, it's a really dark mahogany back that they have almost. The bigger ones that are over 5-6 pounds, the ones bigger than 5 or 6 pounds, it is black when it comes out of the water. So
aren't those margate though? Black margate?
No,
they're called white grunt.
We what's that? No, I'm talking about the gray snapper.
Mangroves.
All
right, now I'm confusing myself.
Yeah.
All right, so your mangrove snapper are only 100 to 130 foot. You don't have them in shallow.
No, there is, but that's primarily where the food source is at the time of the year. We see them in the late summer and the fall up here. About July, they really show up, and through the fall, through October, November is when we mainly catch them. We don't see a lot. There's not a heavy influx of them in the springtime here.
So you don't have them.
I think it has to do with water temperature.
You don't have them year round all the way through your fishery from 5 foot of water all the way to 250 foot like we do.
No, no. God believes that you should take a break from fishing every once in a while and go deer hunt, Dylan. I wish I could see your comments. I bet the comments are
God
great.
believes. That's a good one. Someone said, I understand Destin has a lot of blue crabs. Is that true?
Destin does have a lot of blue crabs.
Okay.
Yes, it, the whole northern Gulf has a lot of blue crabs. The Panhandle for a long time, hence Crab Island. Everybody hears about Crab Island. It was barely an island in the 70s. It get dry in the wintertime, and back in the 60s there was a little bit of an island there, but it wasn't substantial enough. But my whole childhood before Crab Island became a tourist event, uh, in the during crab season, you would see tons of crab pods. The Norwegian styrofoam buoys,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody out there putting their crab traps and stuff like that. It's blue crab is it's really good in the Choctachi Bay.
Nice. Yeah, for those who aren't familiar, a Crab Island is basically a sandbar. It's like our Bunce's Pass sandbar, John's Pass sandbar on absolute steroids. It's, I mean, a normal weekend day, you guys are having like 300, 400 boats out there, right?
Minimum.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
crazy.
For 4th of July, I heard this year the estimate was somewhere around 2,600 boats were utilizing Crab Island. So
That's
a lot of pontoon boats, rental boats, and the thing is there's the core area of Crab Island, but
mhm.
it also it'll go from the 2 to 3 foot depth down to a 3 to 4 foot depth, and it can carry, it covers as much, if not a little bit more area of that. So there's
Wow,
when all the boats really get in there, people will anchor up, in chest deep water instead of waist deep water and get up on on the shoal.
that's crazy. Well,
It is. I don't go
yeah, I don't go to sandbars either. That's not my thing. So a little bit about Destin. We've talked about it, a little bit about your party boat, American Spirit. If you guys haven't checked them out on Facebook yet, it is actually pretty entertaining. Their style on social media is pretty funny. Explain that a little bit.
Oh well, we have some characters that work for us,
A little
and
bit.
they are content gold, you know. And I've kind of, we're lucky that the culture we breed up there is, everybody. There's some people that are really serious about fishing, and we're serious too. I mean, like we catch good fish, but I always tell the guys that fishing is my department. Y'all are to make sure everyone's safe and has a good time, and some of my crew members take that to more heart than others. And some of them become Facebook famous or TikTok famous, and uh, they enjoy their job a lot.
Yeah.
And we're really blessed to have the charismatic characters, because, as you know, there's some days that are really slow on the water. And when you hear when the bite's slow as a captain, but you can hear people down there laughing, and having a good time, then you're doing something right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, definitely some good people, and I enjoy their videos, so it is pretty funny. You should check them out and give their Facebook and Instagram a like. You have a TikTok too. I was unaware. I'm gonna have to check that out.
I don't know if it's I don't know it yet.
You're not
I
taking
was
claim
trying to
of
hold
that.
them off from it. I was trying. It takes everything I can to mitigate and oversee the Instagram and the Facebook. I was like, guys, one more platform, like just cross them over, like please, just. But he kept talking about Eric kept talking about creating a spirit TikTok. So I'm not. I can neither confirm nor deny. So
All right. Well, so obviously you guys have heard a little bit about Jim and a little bit about his company and a little bit about Destin in the area. How we met is actually at golf council meetings. Going to meetings, I ran into Jim, and you've been in federal fisheries management for many, many more years than I have. How long have you been involved going to meetings pretty much full time?
well, I was taken to my first Gulf Council meeting in 2006 by Captain Mike Eller, who's now retired and moved to Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
And I became vice president of the DCBA in 2008. I believe it was 2008. So, we're looking at basically 15 years solid,
Wow.
uh, and seen a lot of changes and stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we did meet, and we were not at each other's throat, but we were
Enemies.
having heated discussions. But that's whenever I realized, and as your listeners know, I realized that you were a plethora of knowledge, and like me, I could tell that you were about the fishery and
Mm-hmm.
not about yourself. And there's some people, just like in any business, there's people that are about themselves, and there's people that are about the cause.
Yeah.
And it was very clear that you were for what's just and right.
Yeah.
And that's what made me strong arm you getting involved further.
Well, I appreciate it. It's definitely been fun working with you and our Charter Fishing Association to continue to work at doing the best we can to represent our industry and our fishery. And yeah, flying out early tomorrow. We both are flying out earlier tomorrow.
Yeah.
You're flying out earlier than I am to to
Am
Austin.
I? I didn't know.
Yeah.
I am I?
Yeah.
I
You
thought we
fly
were
out at
flying out the
6.
same night.
Yeah. No, I fly
Okay.
out at 8. I have to leave at 6. We talked about
Oh.
this, but you don't listen to me. It's all right.
Well, that's because I'm the second best place in Florida.
Exactly.
We have to get up early for flights.
Yeah, and you're on Central Time, so I gain an hour in the air, flying backwards.
Yeah.
So it's definitely going to be an interesting week. We got a lot talking about with gag grouper potential changes on bag limits. That discussion is going to happen, and definitely will be interesting to see how a lot of this shakes out. But so often it's comical to me, Jim, when we get back from one of these Gulf Council meetings, the very next show. So we do these shows every Sunday night. So a week from tonight, we're going to be talking about, hey, the Gulf Council meeting, we just got back. This is what we talked about. And people are like, well, what happened? But it's not ever, I don't feel like when I get home from a Gulf Council meeting, I never feel like, well, we did something really good at that meeting. It's like it's like getting hunted by a turtle, right? Or it's like what I always say. It's like networking with extreme implications, right?
Yeah.
High stakes networking, and that's kind of what it boils down to. Is these decisions take a long time, painstakingly amount of time, and frustrating amount of time, because a lot of times, like with red grouper, what we're seeing with red grouper is the fishery is healthier and healthier and healthier and healthier, and the science isn't catching up. So that's why the seasons are shrinking, and the seasons are shrinking because we keep hitting the quota, because the fishery is healthy, and because they won't increase the quota, we keep hitting it, and they won't increase it because we keep hitting it, so they have to close the season early enough to stop us from hitting it so they can increase it. So basically, the science is struggling to catch up to what's going on the water. So it can be frustrating because of how slow the process is, but the slowness of the process is also a function of its transparency, which is even more frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, like it is. It's arduous, and it's glacially slow.
Yeah.
And that it's funny, if I had $1 for every time after we go in and we give testimony, and then we go talk to the council members after, when the webinar is off, or we're meeting, or we go out to eat dinner and we run into them, they're like, yeah, you've been talking about that for a couple of years. And like, yeah, you're finally getting it. People,
Yeah, I have been.
people don't understand that, it's funny getting hunted by a turtle. I'm gonna have to use that one.
Yeah.
But I was gonna just say it's like gardening.
Yeah.
You're walking through there every week, every day, every week, every month, and you're picking weeds out. No, that's not right. No. Here's what's good. You're watering your seeds. You're trying to get something to grow, and eventually it blooms, and then you got something. And it's where a lot of people either lose faith or lose interest in the system, in the process.
I love your analogy of gardening, because that's important. Something that I talk about at the Florida Guides Association, Captain Travis Thompson brought up, and we actually did our last newsletter about being in the room. And when you're in the room, you have those opportunities to be a part of conversations. And your analogy of gardening is important, because if you miss a couple council meetings because, hey, it's a slow process. It's going to take them 2 years to do that. I'll wait a while and come back. It's not important that I make this meeting. Well, that little weed can pop up, and if you don't catch it and pull it out of the ground right away, all of a sudden down the road, that weed might have a nice big stalk and have a good root system, and then all of a sudden it's really hard to remove that weed, or perhaps it's too late, it's already taken root, and then you're kind of stuck with it. And that's kind of a good analogy for some of these amendments, because sometimes these amendments can start going off the path you want them to be on, or it can start veering away from what you want to see. And if you're not there to kind of tap it back onto track, it can get off track quickly. And then all of a sudden, once you're down the road, so often I see people get so worked up and upset, like, I can't believe this happened, when it's in a final rule stage, when they've been talking about it for 3 years. Like Seafire, like we came to implementation, like it's beyond proposed rule, beyond final rule. It's stood up and it's legal doctrine, and then people are complaining about it. It's like, how did you not know about this? Like, we were a year into the program and people still didn't have reporting set up on their phones. It was pretty mind-boggling to see the lack of following along, right? And I think that's the important part of it, is if you want to have a voice, if you want to have any sort of input, you have to kind of follow along and be there in the room, or be in the garden, as you would say.
Yeah, no, that's completely accurate. You know, I never make it to the June meeting, of course, because it's the beginning of snapper season. It's usually the first week or two of June. But I'm on my phone texting, phone calls, the entire time I'm listening to the meeting. But it's just like I'm sitting there, like I'm as well as I can emulate that I'm at that meeting and running fishing trips at the same time. And it's and just as you said, like, I mean, if you're not making the menu, you might end up on it. And it's very important to harbor those friendships and you know, I mean, like, it's not just with the council members, it's with the staff.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times
many times.
I would not have hardly any of the knowledge I do if I had not befriended the staff at NIPS and the Gulf Council. Those folks have educated me so well over the last 15 years on the process, on what's, you know, acceptable, what, you know, and you talk about not only learning the process, but then you're not wasting time.
Yeah.
And then you also get to educate someone. You know, we have we try to have about 8 meetings a year in Destin for the DCBA.
Mm-hmm.
And just like this one, there wasn't anything very consequential at this Gulf Council meeting coming up, as far as like something taking final action. But I had 20 guys show up during a busy week of the summer just to get educated. And that's the cool part about it, because, you know, as the tide rises, you want all boats to float higher. And I want all my captains in my port, when people ask them questions, I don't want some answer to come out of their mouth that's either just off the wall or completely ignorant to what the process is. I want them to be able to look professional and to really give their customers the right answer on why we're doing this and why we're pushing for this.
And that's another really cool part about Destin that I find that I'm jealous of, is the fact that you guys have such a close-knit charter fishing fleet. We're the exact opposite in Tampa Bay. I mean, even in the same harbor, sometimes we don't always chat or get on the same page, and we can be very stratified. And the opinion is also very stratified throughout the area. So it's interesting to see the change from somewhere like Destin, where you guys have such great organizational leadership, and everybody's kind of on the same page and under the same kind of flag, which is pretty interesting and pretty unique across the Gulf. If you look across the Gulf, there's not really anything like the DCBA. There's the Panama City has an organization, but not quite as big. Galveston has an organization, not quite as big. Alabama, I would say, is probably pretty awesome. They have a state thing that's pretty strong and pretty unified, but they have like a mile of coast, so it's not really the same. I mean.
Well, you know, Dylan, one thing about it is because of how compact Destin is, and it kind of forces you.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all our whole fleet is within about 3/4 of a mile to a mile and a quarter of harbor shoreline.
Yeah.
There's a few outlier boats and out of the harbor, but really that's the core of the fleet. So when you're that on top of each other, and then we also have the Destin Fishermen's Co-op, the cooperative. So we have like, I think, 35,000 gallons worth of fuel capacity that we sell to members and the general public, but it's member priority. We have the ability to order things from Donovan and Lewis and Landis, all the marine suppliers at wholesale pricing. We get wholesale filters or the national pricing at Napa. We have our own in Freeport, which is on the north side of the Choctachi Bay. We have our own dry dock, the Fishermen's Co-op dry dock. So the blessing is that we were all on top of each other, so it made us way more organized. And we realized that we're all here together. We might as well make it work. So we were very fortunate with that.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's definitely a big change. Want to quickly segue and give a shout out to those sending stars. The Hall family kind of got in a little bit of a stars fight over here, it seems like. Looks like Christina Hall has, I think, 6,000 stars. Meanwhile, Lance Hall won handedly with 9,000, I think, 9,900 stars. James McCullum with 500. Appreciate you, buddy. Christina McDougal. Nick Nieves with 1,200. Thanks, buddy. Don Schuett with 500. And Louis Canaveri, I appreciate you. Scott Flynn as well. So big shout out to all of those sending stars. Also, I think it's time, Josh, that we do another giveaway. Is that possible? Why we have the split screen going on here? It is possible. Josh is going to figure that out for us, guys. But we are going to give away another free trip. We did our 10-hour all day. Let's go ahead and do our 5-hour half day for 2 lucky.
I think it's awesome, Dylan. I think it's awesome that you segue into giving away a free trip after we got done talking about how great Destin was. That's really cool.
There it is. All right, so 5-hour half day for 2 guests. Lucky winner is Kenny O'Hare. Look at that, from Spencer,
Way to
Indiana.
go, Kenny.
Yeah, congrats, Kenny. Remember, you got a total of 5 minutes to text us at that phone number on the screen there, your full home address. So make sure you text us your full home address within about 5 minutes to prove you're watching live. So let's get on back here to the conversation with our friend Captain Jim. Josh, oh, there it is. Guest. Perfect. All right, so Captain Jim, so besides the council meeting, we got gags coming up. We also have Amberjack discussion coming up. Amberjack, man, that has been a treacherous past. We talked earlier, you kind of started coming to Gulf Council meetings in 2006. I started full-time coming to council meetings and really diving in full with both feet in 2017. I think I went to my first Gulf Council meeting when I was real young, but actually going and understanding and participating in the process was 2017. And Amberjack has been one of those things that have always been discussed, and it seems to just continue to be on a nosedive, whether it's the trend of warming Gulf temperatures chasing them out, or the BP oil spill, or the lack of sargassum weed, or more effort, or a mixture of all those variables. Who knows? But it just doesn't seem like we can get improvement on Amberjack. And it doesn't seem like very many people are very hopeful on that.
Well, Dylan, one thing that I think that's really come to light that showed me is that a 35-inch amberjack only has a 50% chance of being sexually mature. So
that's not good.
My whole life, we've been killing immature amberjacks, and now we've gotten to a point where we don't even we're at 34 inches. So the fish we're harvesting has a less than 50% chance of being sexually mature. The commercial jack's been at 36 inches.
Mm-hmm.
So they have just barely a chance of being more than 50% chance of being sexually mature. And, a lot of people don't want to hear it because, a 38-inch jack or a 40-inch amberjack, that's a big jack. That's a
Yeah.
30 plus pound fish,
Mm-hmm.
easy. But I mean, like, if we're talking about rebuilding this fishery and we're on our third rebuilding plan, I don't quite understand why we aren't talking about a bigger fish,
Yeah.
and nobody really wants to hear that, and nobody wants to talk about that. But, we're at a point now where fractional bag limits have been a discussion, of one fish per two people on the boat kind of thing. And, I think we're just aiming in the wrong direction. I think that we
Yeah.
need to make sure that fish that we harvest has a chance to reproduce before we remove it from the biomass from the fishery.
Yeah, and that's one cool thing about Jim that I'll point out if you didn't catch on yet is he's been involved for a really long time and he's not super jaded and negative. So often, so often when I talk to folks that have been a part of these fisheries meetings or the process for more than 5, 10, 15 years, they just are just super negative on the process. Like, it doesn't matter what we're gonna do. It's all crap anyways. They're gonna do what they want. Whereas you have never been that way. You've always been. I can sometimes get a little negative. Like, what are we gonna do? This is stupid. It's all over. I give up. And you always seem to pull me back. And with Amberjack too. I mean, I started off being pretty negative there. It just doesn't seem like what we do matters. It keeps being negative. But here you are presenting the case of, all right, let's give those fish a better chance of being sexually mature before we take them out of the fishery. That's a really good idea. And it also brings to mind the fact, like with red snapper. Like, I'm 32 years old. When I was fishing on a 39-hour trip as a kid, 8, 9, 10, 12 years old, I didn't know what a red snapper was. I remember catching my first red snapper and looking at it like, what in the world is this? And I actually had to ask somebody what it was. I wasn't familiar with them. And then all of a sudden we started getting them more and more and more, and now we are where we are today. So it's one of those things that we never know, right? Even if amberjack is totally fished down, we could see that fishery bounce back, like we saw with the old red snapper bounce back. So,
Yeah.
I mean, what was red snapper like for you guys? Did you get to like in our area? My grandfather caught a ton of red snapper, but
Yeah. So,
I didn't see him.
well, Pensacola back in the 1700s. Pensacola had schooners that went out and caught them. They were the snapper fleet, and it was all sailboats going out there and just, I guess, floating around trying to find fish. Of course, there was probably a lot more abundance back then.
Yeah.
But when I was a kid, in the in the late 80s, early 90s, when I first started working on my grandfather's charter boat, I remember when a 12-inch red snapper was a nice snapper. like it had been beat down so hard in the 80s.
Yeah.
That the fish, they started putting limits on them in I believe 93, 92, 93 is when they started putting limits on fish. And I remember as a kid, like, we probably on 4 and 6 hour trips, we primarily trolled.
Mm-hmm.
If it was all day, an eight plus hour trip or longer, we were jack fishing or grouper fishing.
Yeah.
And it was, the red snapper was just another bycatch. It was this beautiful little 12, 14 and 16-inch fish. And we watched it come back in the 90s, and then we watched it go down again in the early 2000s. And then once the reauthorization of the Magnuson Act in 06 that required payback provisions and everybody to get real serious about managing the fish properly, that's when we saw the explosion. That's when you started wondering what a red snapper was. So
yeah, that tracks, because I was born in '91, so it was early 2000s when I started catching them. When we started seeing them in Central West Florida, Tampa Bay, like 2001, 2002, and then really started seeing them 2005, 2006, 2007. That's when those seasons got to like critical mass, started getting shorter, and when we first started seeing them and more were exploding, that's when seasons length started to shut down, and we were all like, what? We've never even knew what these fish are, and now they're everywhere and we can't catch them. So it didn't make a lot of sense to us, and that was a really cool part to me, getting involved in federal fisheries management and going to these meetings and meeting guys like yourself from Destin, folks from Alabama, from Mississippi, from Louisiana, from Texas, and learning other parts of the Gulf and how they fish, and like hearing the party boat captain in Texas talk about the time that they caught a red grouper, and they texted my dad the photo like, "Hey, what is this? I know it's a grouper, but what kind of grouper is this?" So it was pretty funny how different the fisheries are across the Gulf, and just how different it's evolved over time is always very interesting.
Well, and even in just our state,
Yeah.
I mean, the difference between when we talk about things, your grunts are my vermilion,
Yep.
And your hogfish, it borderlines right up there with
No.
our with our snapper fishing. Like
No.
we don't have hogfish on shirts, and it's funny too. Me and Dylan will trade pictures back and forth. I'll send them pictures of people on my boat with Hubbard's t-shirts, and Dylan will send me pictures with American Spirit shirts.
Yeah. And that's just because someone left theirs in the trash and our crew picked it up, but no worries. No worries.
Dylan, we're gonna have to do a whole show on your inability to accept Destin as your equal.
Little cousin maybe, but so it's been interesting. Oh, he fell out of his chair.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, no, that was you got me.
Oh, that's funny. So
that was funny, dude.
The one other thing that I think is really different between our area and pretty much anywhere else along the Gulf Coast, it seems like, is we anchor fish. Tarpon Springs south, we anchor fish. Destin, what do you guys do?
We hold up.
Hold up. So they motor fish, right? What happened? Did we lose you?
Sorry, I had a little volume control issue there.
I got you. So,
sorry about that.
So hold up, that's essentially motor fishing.
Yeah, station keeping. Exactly. Yeah.
So instead of dropping an anchor, their engines are running the whole trip.
Yeah. And instead of the captain taking a nap, he works the entire time. That's correct.
So
That's
it's different from our fishery because we encourage our captains and myself to get involved with the crew, and we get it's a different style, right? The captain comes down from the wheelhouse, engages with the customers. Often we'll even fish next to a customer and try to help them or teach them. And we get more customer involvement for that reason because we're able to, right? We're able to walk away from the wheel. The engines are off. The boat's at anchor. The captain's going to keep going up in the wheelhouse and making sure that the anchor's holding, making sure that we're not swinging off the fish, and making plans for the next spot. Sometimes the captain won't leave the wheelhouse if we're swinging real hard, if the weather's adverse, if the wind's blowing, things like that. And they might not be able to leave the wheelhouse as freely, but other times we have a lot of opportunities to kind of engage with the guests for that reason. Whereas, I mean, you're at the wheel or at the controls, stern station all the time, jockeying the boat around to hold that position essentially.
Yeah, it is. I think it has also to do, and I know you run shorter trips, but we don't the demographic in Destin, the angler in Destin is not it's more novice than the one in Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
You have a far more permanent population there that's active fishermen, where I would say at least 60 to 70% of my business is tourists that are coming down. I would say we have a solid 25-30% that are local and regional anglers that come from Alabama and Georgia and stuff. But a lot of and those folks, they're I've had a lot of them come on the boat and be like, oh my gosh, 8 hours, I don't know if I could ever do that. And they come on a 4 or 6 hour and they're like, oh, this is a walk in the park, we're coming on the 8 hour next time. So
yeah,
we have a lot of people that come on and they don't think that they can handle it, or they have mom, dad, and the kids is what a lot of our business is.
mm-hmm.
And it's really getting them out there and letting them experience it and have a good time. And that's where my crew comes in. And I don't know how many deckhands you have, but like in the summertime, I've had 4 full-time deckhands and 2 greenhorns.
Yeah.
My son and another, high school aged kids that are learning the trade. and we really push it. I mean, I talk on the intercom and stuff, and I'll go down while we're going in and out and at the dock and talk to them and stuff like that. I don't want to just be like the Wizard of Oz, the man behind the man up there behind the curtain, but I, but it is different. We don't anchor, and a lot of it has to do with the compressed amount of time that we have to fish.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people fishing out of Destin, so we get deeper quicker, but we have a lot of boats out of a single port.
Yeah.
So like this time of year on my 6-hour trip, I'm running 20, 22, 23 miles to get a catch of fish because everything in that 15 to 20 mile range has been picked over pretty hard.
Yeah.
So, it varies different times of the year, and it's more about the volume. Some people like to say we're part-time fishermen up in the Panhandle, but
I don't know who said
I would
that.
say
it wasn't.
Yeah.
Nobody I know.
But I would say we do a year of fishing in about 8 months.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
we'll agree to disagree.
And we get time to ourselves, So it's different. Like I'll tell you what, I don't disrespect anybody that's in our industry because everywhere is different and everywhere has their different culture.
Yeah. And that's what's so cool about Florida in general that I talk about a lot is you can go 2 hours south of here and be in Fort Myers, Naples, and their fishery is completely different than ours. You can go 2 hours north of here and be in Crystal River, like way up in Big Bend area, and it's super shallow, you can go 60 miles and still be in 80 foot of water. It's crazy. And then you can keep going and you're in Panama City, Destin, and that's a different fishery. You can cross over into the East Coast, and it's Southeast Florida. You're up 2 miles out. You're in 1,200 foot. It's crazy. And then Canaveral is different. Then St. Augustine is different. It's just our state is so awesome, and there's so many cool areas to fish. I didn't even mention the Keys. That's a whole different conversation. It's wild, and each place has its own culture, and they call fish different things, like mangrove snapper, where you're at's a black snapper. Cobia is a ling in Destin to some people. It's interesting how the names change too, right? I always find that interesting.
Yeah, and like our vermilion, we call it a mingo.
Yes, I forgot about that.
We we call it a mingo. We call a red porgy is a white snapper up here.
My dad calls them.
It has to do.
My dad calls them champagne porgies. He always calls them champagne.
Yeah, champagne porgies. Yeah, we call it Tom Tate or ruby lips.
Yeah,
there's just, and if it's anything that looks like a grunt and we don't know the name of it, it's a white grunt. So,
do you guys keep Tom Tates?
No.
Yeah.
Bait for bait.
Yeah, they are. They make good bait. And that's,
if we could ever get a cat food company to buy them from us, we'd be rich.
Millionaires.
There's so many of them up here.
One fish that we consider bait that is good food is squirrel fish, sand perch. Do you have those up there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Those
are good.
And the squirrel fish is the one with the little blue squiggly lines. Is that what you're talking about? Sand
crazy gill plate, real serrated gill plate.
Yeah, we eat those in what we call a rockfish, but it's the brown and yellow and white belly. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Now I feel like an idiot.
That's like a French grunt, right?
Yeah. There's a name. I can't remember the name. I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of it. We call it a rockfish, but it's brown. It's got a primarily brown body and it's got yellow
stripes.
Yep.
I've always called those French grunts. But I might be wrong. I don't know.
Well, there you go. This is totally different.
another example.
Yeah.
And that's why it's always funny.
The guys over in Alabama call the vermilion a beeliner.
Yeah.
So so it's all it just depends on where you're at.
And that's what's so funny to me when I call a white grunt a gray snapper and people freak out and get so upset, like, oh, you're misleading people. It's like, dude, everybody calls a fish a different thing. And they have different names for different fish. I mean, look at my favorite example is Chilean sea bass. They charge you an arm and a leg for Chilean sea bass, and the real name for that fish is Patagonian toothfish. It is literally the ugliest fish in the sea. And they church it up to Chilean sea bass. That's like Joe Dierte.
It's terrible. Yeah, it's terrible for sure.
Yeah. Too funny. Well, I'll let you go, brother. I know you were busy today running.
Are we not
trips.
going to give away another fishing trip?
We've got two. We've got a swag pack to give away and a 39-hour to give away. But
Come on, who's been banging the stars, man?
Well, the stars don't get you any better chance to win trips, but it is a super appreciated and a great way to show your support for the show. Craig Robinson, thanks for the stars. Richard Harcourt, Brian Eakins, Jason Richmond, James McCullum, appreciate you as well. Let's go ahead and see who won the Hubbard's Marina swag pack. The swag pack. Lucky winner of the Hubbard's Marina swag pack is Edmund Landry from Apollo Beach. Edmund Landry from Apollo Beach, congratulations. You got 5 minutes or less if you're the lucky winner, Edmund Landry, to text us the phone number on the screen there, your full home address, and we need your t-shirt size so we can hit you with that Hubbard's Marina swag pack. Captain Jim, I appreciate you joining us tonight and having some fun. What that East Pass podcast, is that your podcast or is that just one you've been a guest on a few times?
I've been a guest. It's actually a lady that's a neighbor of mine, and her husband also is a third generation charter fisherman. Who me and him grew up together. But she was trying to think of a way, because she's very engaged, and she would read my emails, and she would always ask questions, and then we're actually in a time in Destin where we call it the grain of the fleet. So we got a lot of old timers that are out of the business, but they are still, making cameo appearances on boats and stuff like that. So we thought it was great to get some of these guys to tell their stories.
That's cool.
And it's really cool because it's drawn a lot of attention from the stories, and then people are getting educated on the podcast. And we're gonna, after this next Gulf Council, we're gonna do another East Pass podcast. She wants to talk gag grouper, so maybe I can get you to come on that one too.
Yeah.
And have a discussion. And one thing we didn't talk about, Dylan, was Seafire. This meeting they're gonna start the groundwork for the Seafire program.
Yeah.
So
our viewers are pretty well educated on the Seafire program. We've talked about it a lot. And I feel like there's a big appetite for it. I think a lot of people are upset that it went away. And I think this FES thing will really kind of shake it out even further, because we see what happens when we're stuck in this survey estimation feedback loop.
Extrapolating the data.
And data indonation was my favorite term. They use that.
Oh, man.
In COVID times, when they weren't able to send surveyors out to the ramp, they used what's called data indonation, which is just a really fancy $10 word for we made it up. They took
churching it up.
Yeah, they took I think it was data from 2018, 19, or it was 17, 18, and 19, and basically did an average and kind of guessed at what was caught in 2020. And that's how they made up the COVID year catch landings for recreational fishermen. So it's really, really frustrating to see that.
Really accurate stuff. Really accurate.
And we're being facetious to a point. I mean, there is a lot of time, energy, and money put behind this. So there is you have to do it some way, right? So they have to get to it at some point. But I think there's better ways to do it. And we were there with Seafire. We spent, essentially, I got involved full time in 2017 because of Seafire, and I saw the weeds sprouting up, so I wanted to get in that garden and pull some of those weeds and get that back on the right path. So that's what really got me heavily involved in this process. It was the infancy of Seafire, and we've been working on that. Jim was working on that for probably 4 or 5 years before I got involved. So it's sad to see the change happen, but we're gonna get it started back up. We lost the battle, not the war, right?
That's right. And Dylan, I really appreciate you having me on here, and I look forward to being invited again. I hope.
Yeah, for
sure.
Where
we can talk about the difference between Tampa and Destin, and the greatness of both of them. So
yeah,
and I'll work on getting a better background for you here and everything. We'll have a better setup next time. But thank you for having me, and I hope y'all have a good one, and I'll see you in Texas tomorrow.
All right, brother. I'll see you tomorrow morning around 11 a.m. Have a good one, Jim.
All right. Text you in the morning. Later, buddy.
That was fun talking to our friend Jim there and joining that conversation. And he's got to fly out a little earlier than me, so I appreciated him joining the show for sure. But definitely a good time chatting, fishing. We still got our 39-hour trip to give away. Before we do that, want to give a shout out to Don Schuett. Thanks for sending some stars, my friend. Jerry Wallace, Jason Richmond again, Craig Robinson. Appreciate you guys all for shooting us with some stars. Appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. Hopefully you enjoyed the guest. Trying to switch it up a little bit, get some more guests on the show. Sometimes they're going to be virtual, sometimes they're going to be in person. Definitely working a little harder to switch it up and keep it fresh for y'all. So hopefully we're going to have something fresh next week. I'm working on something. I don't want to announce it yet because it's not quite locked in, but I'm going to work on that early this week and try to get someone locked in for next week as well. Another good conversationalist that we can have a good back and forth with. Make sure you check out some of these light loads. We've got just a few people on these 39-hour trips coming up, especially the last Tuesday trip, August 22nd. That last Sunday trip, which would be August 20th, lighter loads on those 39-hour trips. We've got 12-hour night trips, the 23rd and 24th with 12-hour extreme trips, excuse me. The 23rd and 24th with super light loads. Those are the last two of red snapper season. We've got some great opportunities to get out there and capitalize on our red snapper before they close August 24th. We've got some good opportunities out there on near shore fishing. The 10-hour all days averaging like 19 to 25 people. Today, I think we took 24 out on the all day. Tuesday and Thursday both only have 19 people on them. So light loads on the 10-hour all day, the 12-hour extreme, the 39-hour trips. The 5-hour half days still averaging 40, 50 people, so still a little busy there, but definitely has slowed down a lot on the longer range trips. So hopefully we'll see you guys out there for some fishing fun. Hopefully we'll see you next week for another episode of our live stream show. Wish us luck and safe travels this week. Captain Jim and myself flying out early tomorrow morning to Austin, Texas for our Golf Council meeting. Hopefully you enjoyed the show tonight. Don't forget to check out Hubbard's Marina on TikTok. We're really working hard to try to grow our TikTok channel. We got some cool stuff on there. Also our Instagram page. If you want to follow the fitness journey, the Captain Dylan Hubbard Facebook and Instagram page. We replicate some of the stuff on the Hubbard's Marina, but I always post a story every day what's going on kind of in the fitness journey wise. And then also we've got coming up here this coming Friday, we've got Fox 13 doing a story you don't want to miss out on. So stay tuned for that. August 27th, 2 p.m., Bass Pro. Join us there for our next in-person seminar event, August 27th, 2 p.m. Mark it down. With that, let's give away our 39-hour trip. And we're going to do a super short supporters after show because, again, I got to go home and pack and fly out early tomorrow morning. So super short supporters after show starts at 8:50 p.m. Thanks for being a supporter. If you want to join the supporters group, it's definitely a great way to get some more connectivity, behind the scenes info, and more. Check out our Spotify channel, Hubbard's Marina Podcast on Spotify, Apple. Don't forget to give us a subscription and a review. Hopefully, we'll see you soon out on the water. Don't forget, if you're too busy to go fishing, you're just too darn busy. Come find out where we're the #1 fishing charter in the country. Much better than Destin. And thanks for watching tonight, guys. Let's see who won our 39-hour trip for one lucky winner. 39-hour for one goes to... Lucky winner is... Michael Johnson. You got 5 minutes or less, Michael Johnson. You're ready to be back fishing with Hubbard's Marina, and you just won a free trip, sir. So thanks for tuning in and hanging out, y'all. We hope to see you soon out there on the water. Hopefully we'll see you August 27th, 2 p.m. at Tampa Bass Pro. And don't forget, if you're too busy to go fishing, you're just too darn busy. Thanks for watching, y'all.